Hi everyone, I'm Bree Arthur and welcome to my foodscape here in Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. Though I'm originally from southeastern Michigan, I relocated to central North Carolina 18 years ago and I've been loving gardening in Zone 7 ever since. So, I'm going to take you all around my property. It was developed 10 years ago. We garden on the equivalent of a 1/4 acre. We have 1 acre total. Half of it is a woodland swamp. 1/4 is in turf, 1/4 is in landscape beds or foodscape beds, where I incorporate food right alongside all of my beautiful ornamental flowering trees, shrubs, and perennials. The front gardens were designed and installed 10 years ago, meant to be shrub borders with a ground cover of flowering perennials. This is intended to reduce the need for mulch and reduce my weeding efforts. You can see right now a beautiful Lespedeza little volcano blooming. It's been blooming for over a month. And then mixed in this border are things like phlox and roses and various mums to take up ground space. As you can see in this shrub border, I really love using mums as a ground cover because they bloom through the fall and look so nice. This border has a lot of different species Calicarpa or beautyberry planted, including this really dark berried form called acuminata and this heavy berry form, which is a Japanese species. The foundation planting has grown great all summer. These are all annuals, so once we get frost, these will die to the ground and I'll get to replant for the cool season. You can see I've used quite a few star zinnias, various species of salvia, castor beans, which are all self-sown, and I love the color of coleus just to add a pop. But in and amongst here are various food crops, including basil, peppers, lots and lots of peppers, and even tomatoes, which are a bit past their prime but still producing fruit. And that's the whole point of a foodscape, to seamlessly grow food like this edible sweet potato here, right alongside ordinary plants like zinnias, coleus, vinca, and other foundation plants that you would ordinarily grow in your home landscape. There's Cubby Brewster. He likes to take naps in the garden. Hi, Cubs. So we walk around the north side of the house. This is the area where I'd had my only shade when I built this garden. And at that time, I was specializing in broadleaf evergreens that need full shade, so I really crowded this border with some of my favorite specimens, including various types of osmanthus or tea olives, and gardenias, Japanese maples, mahonias, and of course camellias. I've also have a ground cover of different types of perennials that make it so that I don't have as many weeds and I don't need to mulch as often. Well, as we come along into the backyard, you're going to see something that looks a little crazy, and that is the Seminal Pumpkin. The Florida Master Gardeners gave me seed this spring, and I really had no idea that it would do so well. You see, it's a really beautiful pumpkin, and I have over 50 fruit, and they're still producing. See, here's when they're small, you can actually just slice that up and eat it, like saute it like a zucchini, and they're delicious. They're hanging everywhere. I've got them hanging in magnolias and hanging in Japanese maples. They've taken over this whole side property border. They've taken over my clothesline, and they've actually grown all the way across this rear fenced area. So I had the neighborhood kids over right before Halloween, and we did a pumpkin hunt, and they were really excited to uncover so many pumpkins. Now the back gardens are getting ready to be ripped out for the warm season and replanted for the cool season. But there's still some really beautiful things like this combination of Koofia and Alabama sunset coleus. This has just been a pollinator magnet with honeybees all day long. Last week I did get the feed tank bed replanted for winter. You can see this is a combination of violas, curly parsley, and Ms. America mustard. There's an edge of garlic planted, which is just starting to grow. You see those sprouts? And what that does is help keep the voles from going into the bed and eating all the tulip bulbs which are planted throughout this area. We have frost-free forecast still, so I'm not going to do much to these borders until they get kissed by frost, and then I'll be ready to rip them out. Here is the fire pit bed, which is not quite ready for fires because I have my display of mangaves still over top of the fire pit. But soon these will all go into a heated shed, and then this will all be replanted with winter tolerant plants, including in the containers. Of course, this border of figs is perennial, though it very seldom produces fruit. But these blueberries are spectacular. Not only do they get great fall color, but they produce a ton of blueberries to harvest in July. This is really a classic shot of a foodscape combination, where you have blueberries as hedges, strawberries as a ground cover, and even tucked in are some different herbs, things like lavender. There are peppers planted, and then of course the figs. I love container gardening, and I do it in all different kinds of containers, from fancier pots to fabric bags. I think that growing in bags and growing in pots is a great opportunity. And these are all still filled with summer vegetables, but these will get replanted. You see, I have a bumper crop of peppers still coming. My greenhouse is staged and ready for me to do major replantings with violas, broccoli, cauliflower, mustards. There's some parsley below. So I'm just waiting for the weather to change. And then on this side, we have more bags. And I planted these in August, late August, around the 29th. And I'm so thrilled with the broccoli that's coming along. I have a whole lot of broccoli to be able to harvest. Just started harvesting this yesterday, and it is so delicious. I noticed this morning when I was watering that, look, there's a pumpkin growing in a hardy citrus, which never ever sets fruit unless you grow a pumpkin up it. You'll notice I have bottles everywhere, and this is not only to recycle, but to create a microclimate, which enables me to grow plants that are marginally hardy for my region, including things like rosemary here. Now we're just starting to get some fall color. North Carolina in the central Piedmont is not really known for its fall color, but there are a handful of plants that perform really well, including witch hazels, which is right here. This is a variety called Arnold Promise, and it has wonderfully fragrant yellow flowers in March, and then has this great sun-kissed fall color. Then into my, what we call the compost border, we've got a really neat plant. This is Edgeworthia Chrysantha, and these are the flower buds that are just starting to form, and these will actually open with little fragrant yellow tubular flowers, typically January and February, and they're super, super fragrant. People always ask me about compost, and I do compost. It's not fancy. It's basically like Lincoln logs stacked on one another. It produces wonderful compost, but it's really hard to get to. And this does not produce nearly enough for my needs. So I do buy compost from another source, which I will show you. But there's my compost bin. I've been trying to succession plant things like cabbage and broccoli so that I don't have it all harvested at once. But you can see these gorgeous peppers that I still have to harvest. I've actually been roasting these and making roasted yellow pepper soup and eating it and freezing it so that we'll have it for later on in the season. One of the plants that people are always so intrigued with is this papyrus, and that is growing in a 50-gallon pot that's sunken in the ground filled with water. It's a pot with no holes. Then I just planted this in a container, stuck it in that water trough, and it's grown super well. And here in Zone 7, this has actually been hardy for the last 4 seasons. Now, because I'm from Michigan, I am always trying to emulate the soil that I had when I was growing up. And this has become my solution. This is a product sold here in North Carolina called Soil Cube. And it is just the most glorious, what I like to call Midwest dirt. And I actually use this in all of my containers, everything, including window boxes and hanging baskets, all of my pots. I top dress my lawn, I fill raised beds, and I top dress all my landscaped areas with it as well. It's a wonderful product, only available in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, where we have really poor soils and we deal with a lot of challenges as a result of not freezing. Now, today's my husband's birthday, and tomorrow and the next day it's supposed to be pouring rain. I think there's a hurricane. So I wanted to do this video in advance and show you some of the plants that I grow in the spring, like poppies, that are so great for using as dried decorations when you have a little outdoor shindig. We, of course, are doing everything socially distanced, and so we will have, you know, cake and ice cream and snacks set up here for all of our neighbors to come and enjoy later tonight. I love growing plants for the purpose of drying them and using them in arrangements, including hydrangeas. And actually, the papyrus does really well dried. I actually include that in our Christmas tree each year. Spray paint it like silver or bronze. This is the south side of our house, so this is really a great microclimate for kind of zone bending. And that right there is a really great plant called Koofia. This is the candy corn Koofia, and you can see why. It's such a cool flower. And again, the pollinators just love it. And then around out here to our driveway, I really like having areas set up so that if neighbors come over, we can hang out, but we can stay far enough apart that everybody feels comfortable. So we use this live wall, which is actually from Michigan. This is from Dave McKenzie at Hort Tech over on the west side of Michigan. And this is the neatest thing. I just replanted this on Saturday, and you see it's a screen. Now I only planted one side for the winter, but you see it's on casters, so I can just roll it around and it hooks up to a hose and you put it on a timer and it self-irrigates. And it's just one of the coolest things that I've ever grown in. Everybody always asks about it, and it's really and truly zero maintenance. I hope you've enjoyed this mid-October or mid-November garden tour here at my foodscape in central North Carolina, Zone 7. I'm looking forward to fielding your questions and sharing more advice with all of you. And I just thank you so much for this opportunity to share my love of gardening with each of you. And I wish you the best, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving and a wonderful holiday season.